For those who are first timers, welcome very much to joining this weekly LinkedIn Lunch and Learn. So honored to have Hannah Morgan here today. Thanks to those of you who joined us at 11 o'clock. This is a day-night doubleheader, or I should have brunch-lunch doubleheader. So what I'm going to be doing, I gave Hannah the ability to do some screen sharing, but I think we probably wanted to do this as much as a Q&A, Hannah. Does that make sense?
Hi, Ken.
Hi, who's that?
Alicia.
Alicia, hi. How are you?
Right. That's
Long
cool.
time no see a lot of people here. This is like, what?
Very cool.
All right, so what I'm going to do, if you want to put your LinkedIn URLs in the chat, that would be great. I mean, I'm not going to be I don't tag people anymore after the fact on LinkedIn, but I save the chat in case everyone wants to connect later on. I think I want to respect everyone's privacy and the like. So whenever you want to get going, Hannah,
Okay.
I'm just monitoring the chat here.
I'm gonna.
And if you can just mute yourselves, come in, I'd appreciate it. And if we have questions, we'll figure out.
How do I just turn it on without the?
What?
All right. So I want to thank you, Kenneth, for inviting me to be part of this. But most importantly, what I want to do today is really get people thinking. And I hope we can do some brainstorming. And if you have a piece of paper next to you, I think you're going to want to have that handy because I want you to jot down ideas. Because this is sort of a fun topic and gets you out of your comfort zone and our traditional way of thinking about job search. So my name is Hannah Morgan. I'm also known as Career Sherpa. I have a website and I've been helping job seekers for years understand how to look for work better. And so every day I've been doing this. My goal is, what can I do to teach job seekers how to do this better, differently, and make an impact? So did you know, right, that 65% of the population are visual learners? 65%. That's huge. That means that 65% of the population likes to see visuals, pictures, infographics, as part of the content that they are learning from, reading from. And no, I'm not going to talk about infographic resumes, but that's an option too. I want to talk to you about how you can potentially incorporate more visuals into your LinkedIn and online personas. Did you also know that according to the ladders, a recruiter will only look at your resume at a first glance for 7 seconds? So clearly your resume is not the best place to try and lure a recruiter's attention. Sure, we're going to do that, but I am anti-resume. I've always been one to believe that why would you use something that is not unique? It's going to get lost in the shuffle and just put you in with a pile of other people. Why would you do that? Don't you want to stand out? You don't want to play by the same guidelines and the same rules as everybody else. So this is the overarching question that I want you to be thinking about today. And I'm looking for your answers right now in chat. If you wanted to prove you could do a job today, what would you send the hiring manager instead of a resume? What would you share with them? And so I'm looking to chat, a storyboard, video, portfolio, case, PowerPoint, your LinkedIn profile. I'm gonna say no. Why would you send your LinkedIn profile? They already have that. A video where you tell your story and maybe an example. that can be dangerous because no one really necessarily wants to hear you tell a story about your life history. They can read that. They're looking for examples of your value. A testimonial would be great, samples of work. Hi, Nigel. Good to see you. A case study. Good work from CEO and companies. I don't know exactly what that means, Lisa. A letter of recommendation, maybe, that could have come from a customer or a client. A cover letter and samples of what, John? That's playing by the same old rules. Think a little bit outside of the box. An industry article. Hi, Dr. Scott. Is an industry article that you have written or contributed to? Absolutely. A few accomplishments, Mike. They already have seen your accomplishments on your resume. What can you do to visualize your accomplishments? Again, think outside of the world of text. 65% of the world are visual learners. What can you do to share that accomplishment in a visual format? A personal website's great. Yep. Video's great too. Yes, Alexandra. So you guys are all thinking along the right lines. And that is sort of what we're talking about today. I'm going to show you a couple of examples, and I want to have a conversation around, have you seen these kinds of things, and where would you, more importantly, let's say you create one of these things. How will you get it into the hands of the hiring manager? How can you broadcast this information? Ooh, Alex, I love a picture of you in action. I would love to see that in your red sweater. Okay. So obviously, one of the things that we have that a lot of you mentioned was this personal website. And so Alicia, I'm going to say you're a training consultant, right? And one of the things that I wrote about and I've seen was I saw a training consultant actually create a training curriculum that was her resume. It was also her personal website. But when you went to her course, which was about her, it showed that she had the training and development skills, right? So each one of the different courses or chapters in her course was about her. It was her experience, samples of work. And so it was a great demonstration of her knowledge of training. So, how many of you have a personal website or have thought about creating a personal website? Does anyone have a personal website? Good, Megan. Glad to hear that that is in development now. Wow, you guys are all over this. This is great. Here is why I believe that having a personal website is the best long-term policy, or long-term strategy. It will always be up and running, right? So that means that you can always be updating it, adding to it. You own it. It's great for personal SEO. It's just a fabulous long-term strategy. You don't own LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I've sort of threatened this for years, but LinkedIn tomorrow could say, we're not allowing any other free users. Anybody on this platform must pay to use it. Now they're probably not going to do that, but they could definitely change their layout of the profile and the information that they have available. You're at their whim. So if they ever decide that they're going to cut back on the amount of information you can put there, what are you going to do? Will you go to another platform again that you don't own, or will you always have your online portfolio, your own personal website? You will always have that. So I think the challenge is, do you have the skills to develop your own personal website? And then there's that whole hosting that I see somebody is asking about, and that is a whole nother bailiwick. That's a whole topic for another day. But what a great way to develop your HTML and CSS and SEO skills, which are in marketing really important. So I think that it can only be a good thing, and the investment really isn't going to be that great. To buy your domain name, which is the name of your website, is usually under $20 a year, and then to host it, probably because the website would be small, wouldn't be more than $30, $50 a year. So it's not a huge investment to have that online visibility at all times that you own and control. So I'm reading, I have, oh my gosh. So there are all these questions about the personal website. It's going to be really hard in this framework to answer all of these questions.
I would say if anyone has a question, just to send it as a follow-up, and we can respond to it afterward, because I've done hosting. I can give you some of the pros and cons. So I want to respect, Hannah's time too. So any questions, just reach out to us after. If we don't
Okay,
get
that's
to them.
great. Thank you, Kenneth.
Sure.
Because there are so many different options, and I don't want to shortchange any of them. So that personal website is so fun, and I've written articles about this, and you can go to my website and search for personal website, and you can see some stuff there. Oh, okay. So on LinkedIn, all of you LinkedIn groupies and fans, you know about stories and live and video. You don't need to be a business owner to to use any of these amazing features. Live video, I mean, everyone's been a part of, I'm sure, a live video stream, and it does take an application process to get that. I'm still waiting for live, and it's been a long, long time, but it doesn't mean that you can't try. And I definitely think that you could host your own live show. And then the wonderful thing about this is that it's free. So if you can't do it on LinkedIn, thank you very much, you can always go do it on Facebook. There, so many people I have a Facebook Live that I use all the time because I still don't have access to LinkedIn. And you don't need to be, the people who watch your Facebook Live don't have to be on Facebook. They can watch it live through any sort of web link. They don't need to have an account. So I think live is a great way. So let's think for a second. If you were today to say to yourself, yeah, I'm going to do a weekly live, whether it's on LinkedIn because I have access to that, or it's on Facebook. What could you talk about as the host of a live once a week for 52 weeks? Only 52 episodes. What could you talk about? Put it in the chat. I'd love to see your ideas of what you would talk about. You think about this. You don't have to be the main focus. You could invite guests. You could show stuff. There are so many different things you could do on a live, and you've seen some of them, so you have ideas. What would you talk about? So Jeff's saying leadership and team culture. Great. So Jeff, would it be you talking about that all the time, or would you invite guests? Alexandra's going to talk about networking. Okay. Again, are you going to talk about it yourself? Invite others. Okay, Jeff. Ooh, handcrafted jewelry. That would be great, Nancy. Staying positive. Yes, the power of positive thinking, Edith. Megan's going to talk about engagement and motivation. So Ramesh is being mysterious here. He's going to talk advice on various topics, and we don't know what those are. So Amish will have to fill us in when he gets there. All the networking one can do. Absolutely. Agile. So Sten, that's a great idea. There's so many different things when it comes to Agile, and there'd be a huge interest in people, both those people who are currently using Agile and those people that are not there but thinking about using Agile. You could share so much about that. Yeah, how to write a blog, being present and inspirational. Scrum is another new wave. Absolutely. Soft skills. So Agile is a form of, oh gosh, it's sort of like lean. Remember when we were all talking about lean project management and lean, like how can you get a product or a service from A to launch as quickly as possible? It's like constant improvement and getting things launched. So the thing that I would, and Alex, absolutely anything that would be supporting your personal brand. So here is absolutely where I'm going to come back and say to any of you that are talking about a topic that is motivational or about leadership. Oops, sorry. Think in terms of how will that tie back? How would that cement in somebody's mind that your occupation or your job, or that you're good at what you're doing, right? So it's great that you want to talk about networking, but if you're not talking about something that is absolutely relevant to the kind of work that you are looking for next, what are you branding yourself with as for? So I would be very cautious and reflective. How will this help me establish myself as a professional in my field? So if you're deciding to do a live on any of these, right, you should invite us all to come join you on your live show. And I know one of the things Kenneth has been talking about, and that everybody's jumping on this whole, what is it, bandwagon?
Clubhouse?
Yes. Oh, if I hear it one more time, right? I don't have an iPhone. I can't do Clubhouse. And
But do you have an iPad?
no.
Oh, okay.
I already heard. Yeah, I saw that. But so, like, if you all are interested, it's the sort of the same idea off of LinkedIn, right? It's if you can get there, build a brand, a reputation on a topic related to your career early in the process. See, that's the wonderful thing about new platforms like Clubhouse, right? There aren't any experts there yet, really. There's some, but there's a great opportunity for creating your own niche. It's a different platform. The other way you can sort of cement your brand is to use stories, which is only available on your phone. So that's another way visually you can stay in front of people. And part of the lesson here, and part of the thing that you want to pay attention to, is that you can't just do it once and forget about it. You need to be on a Mike, get an iPhone, get with the times. All right. See, I don't want an iPhone. I like my Droid. Thank you very much. Um, but one of the things with stories or live or even video, you want to do it more than once. It needs to be on some sort of a frequency, whether that's once a week, once a month, once a day, whatever that frequency is, you need to stick with it. Because here's the thing about LinkedIn, and for any of you that are on LinkedIn, you probably have heard this before, and you're talking to Kenneth. Kenneth tells you this all the time. LinkedIn has an algorithm. And what that means is you're not going to see everybody in your network whenever they share something on LinkedIn. And so if you want to stay on the radar of people who are in your network on LinkedIn, you're going to have to do it consistently, not just randomly once in a million years. So these are ways in which you can visually create a brand and stay in front of people that you know. Here comes another, excuse me, another option, which is being able to tell your story in a presentation. And so for those of you that were on Terrence Seaman on Kenneth Lang's brunch club this morning, Terrence Seaman was the guest for the presentation. And one of the things that caught my eye that Terrence shared several weeks ago, and you can go back through his, it's in his featured section on LinkedIn. He had found a client that was being asked to give a presentation as part of the interview process. I have heard that happening more and more. I don't know if you all have heard that too. I was just working with a client, and she had the company say, we want you to give a presentation. This is what we want you to talk about. So more and more companies are doing this. And so as Terrence says here, whether a company is asking you for it or not, why not create one? Why not create a presentation, a slide deck that people can click through and learn more about you? It's visual. It is something different than a resume. And so it's novel. Long ago, back in the financial crisis of 2008, 9, 10, there were a lot of people creating PowerPoint presentations and posting them to SlideShare in the day, which is still around. It's just not as wonderful as it used to be. But you could absolutely create this wonderful slide deck and use that as a status update, a post on LinkedIn. You could embed it into your LinkedIn profile and put it in your featured section. So why wouldn't you create a presentation and share that with the world? And you could even select a, customize that for specific jobs and roles that you are interested in and submit that to people who work inside the company, not recruiting and HR. They don't want to see that stuff. But you could actually, if you knew the hiring manager or somebody inside the company, you could submit that presentation that's been tailored specifically to a company in advance of there being a job posting, in advance of an interview. Why not? You never know what's going to happen. It could hit the eyeballs of somebody who is interested. And I'm one of those people that's constantly thinking, yeah, you could try it because you never know, right? That is my belief. I have heard stories of people who've created presentations that have actually gotten them an interview and they've ultimately gotten hired. So don't tell me it doesn't work. It can work. You just have to do the hard work of understanding what the company is really looking for. So, what would you put in your presentation? If you were going to tell your story in a presentation, what would you put in your presentation? You could certainly, absolutely, what I want you to think about doing is going to Terrence Seaman's slide deck, because he actually created a PowerPoint deck that you can use and modify. It's nothing fancy, but it does give you topics of what you could put on each slide. What kinds of things would you put? What topics would you make sure you wanted to cover in your PowerPoint presentation about yourself? You could have one slide for your technical skills, one slide for each achievement you had. You could have your interests, your outside interests and hobbies. What's in it for the reader? Oh my gosh, thank you, Dr. Scott. That's wonderful. So one of the first rules of creating anything, anywhere, anytime, of creating content is what's in it for me? The reader wants to know, how are you going to solve my problem? That requires you to understand the unique challenges of companies and people hiring in the position that you're interested for. And if you've worked in that position, you absolutely know what the problems are that you face every single day. So thank you, Alex. Alex has assumed that I have a great marketing material. The question is how to generate views of my marketing material. So there are a couple of things, and I'm definitely going to talk about that in the future, but it's where you put it, what you name it, and how you share it. Those are the three: name, uh, where you put it, and how you share it. So those will be the three things I'm going to talk about. So if your passion is marketing, how can you help them? What part of marketing are you really good at? What problems, and this should go back to your tagline or your branding statement or your personal proposition. What problem do you solve for people? If you haven't answered that question, that to me is the most important thing in all of your job search that you have to be able to answer. What problem do you solve? Who benefits? And how do you do it uniquely? If you can't answer those three things, I don't even think you're ready to job search. Like that, those are the common three questions, right, Kenneth? That's it, right? And your value proposition answers those three things. So, one of the best things we can share must be life experiences. Okay, right. So, Nigel, our past experience is an indicator, a predictor of what we can do in the future. So, it is getting to those specific things, problems, the specific problems we have solved, problems that our future employer is likely to also face. So let's just look at this from a very practical standpoint. A problem in marketing is that enough people, we'll use Alex's answer, enough people aren't visiting our website. right? If you're in marketing, how do you get more people to visit somebody's website? That is the problem that you have to solve for. How have you solved that? That would be one example. I created a campaign that with SEO and blah blah blah, which ultimately increased the traffic to our website by 300% in a 1 month period. Like that's the what you did, and that is what a slide would showcase. So Nancy, great point. We're not sending our resume right now, right? So Nancy says, shouldn't all that information be on the resume? I just finished telling you that 65% of the population are visual learners. So this presentation is a supplement to the resume, but it is to capture the attention of people, 65% of the population that don't even want to read a resume or may never read a resume. Nobody reads a resume. They skim it. They don't read it. So we're looking at ways in which we can capture the attention of 65% of the population that don't like reading resumes or don't want to read resumes or may never even see a resume because the resume may never land on their desk. I'll tell you this because I've done hiring and I'm sure lot of you have as well. I was always on the lookout for my next great hire. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't caught flat-footed without somebody to bring into a role. So whether or not I had an opening was almost irrelevant. I would look at the qualifications or have a conversation with somebody, even though I didn't have a position available, because I knew everybody knows that someday they're going to need to fill an opening on their team. What can I do to have a pipeline of people ready to go? Right. And if we realize that there are lots of good managers out there with the same exact thought process, how can we get them something that's going to convince them that, ooh, I don't have a need now, but I'm really interested in how Hannah has presented herself. So I want to learn more about what she could potentially do for me and my company. Because a PowerPoint presentation is not reading, it's visual. And that's a great question. It's another medium. So the point is, if you are following Guy Kawasaki or who's the other guy? Another guy. You can only have like 5 words to a slide, right? If you're creating a PowerPoint presentation, it's a visual representation of you with maximum 5 words per slide. Can that be done? That is your challenge, right? Your PowerPoint you create should not be a duplication of your resume with word after word after word. It's taking the words and concepts that you've conveyed in your resume and making them visual content. Let me move forward because because I've got another. Let me go through here. Here are some ideas of things that you may want to put in your presentation. So obviously the first point is a slide deck or presentation, but if you've ever delivered a presentation as part of your work, wouldn't you want to showcase that? Especially if in the job description it says must be able to deliver presentations to whomever, right? If that's a requirement of the job, then I would expect your presentation to see samples of your presentations. You may have to modify them to take out information that is proprietary, but you can certainly do that. If you've ever had to give a report or a summary or write a case study or create a flow chart, if that's ever been part of your job description, or if that has ever been, if you ever see that as a requirement of the job, you better show that you can write a report, that you know how to write executive summaries, or that you've built flow charts, right? So those are also great samples of work that you could show in your PowerPoint presentation. You know, another way to show how you think or how you've solved a problem is to build a mind map. There are free tools out there that help you build mind maps. It's sort of brainstorming different solutions to problems. So that's another way for you to show that you're a creative problem solver, is to build a mind map. Maybe you're somebody who does a lot of research online or uses lots of different tools as part of their job. Create a list of all of the favorite tools that you like to use and maybe a sample of how you've used them. If you're in project management, show a print chart again in your work, but you could certainly modify that to be a visual demonstration of this is how I've built project timelines. You can take screen shares of places that you places you've been mentioned or work that is featured on other websites that you've worked on. You can use videos and articles and embed those in your presentation. You could link to or capture a screen share of articles that that you've written or you've mentioned. So each one of these is something that could be a potential slide in your slide deck, but it could also be a standalone piece that you could embed as part of your LinkedIn profile, because you realize under your work experience, you can share documents and pictures and URLs. So these are all different ideas for how you could be sharing more, visualizing the work that you've done. I love saying to people, go through the job description, read what the job requirements are, and then what can you show that what can you present, show that shows you know how to do that. Give them proof that you know how to do what they are saying. You can say, I've got a wonderful accomplishment in this area of doing this, but why don't you show them? Show them the proof. How did you do it? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So another tool that is new on the market, and I'm not even sure how long it's going to be around, but it's sort of, I loved its idea. Rex Roy is the founder of this company called My Career Snapshot. And it's a paid service, so I'm not endorsing that. I'm just giving it to you as an example because I think you could either create one yourself or modify it or whatever. But one of the cool things about this is that in a snapshot, it captures all of these really important pieces of data about you and your career that you'd want somebody to know about. All right. And there's something really powerful about this because with this particular image, you could share that as a LinkedIn status update. You could put that in your featured section of your LinkedIn profile. You could embed it in any other part of social media that you have. You could share it on Instagram. You could share it on Facebook. You could share it wherever you are active on social media. For those of you that may not want to pay the money to do that, I will tell you that there are a lot of really fabulous tools, many with templates that help you create infographics. I'm sure many of you have already heard about Canva because it's a wonderful tool to create your LinkedIn headline banner or hero image, that big banner that's at the top of your LinkedIn profile. They have different templates you can use that are already pre-formatted. But Canva has a lot of wonderful templates for infographics as well, even infographic resumes. So if you have this idea that you want to showcase your expertise, then Canva might be a wonderful tool to create it with, and then you can go about sharing it on the different social media platforms and on your personal website wherever you're active. Visme is another tool. It's a freemium service, so it's free at the basic level, but some of the better features are not available at no charge. So Visme is another one that I highly recommend. Pictochart, Venngage, Infogram, all of them are great and they're all freemium, free at the basic level, but to do certain things, you might need to pay a fee to do that. Again, I am not a graphic designer, but you do not need to be a graphic designer per se to utilize these tools because almost all of them come with different templates of different sizes for different purposes. So if you are somebody who is in marketing or who has a creative gene and you are left brain and right brain, why not create an infographic that is like a supplement to your resume that puts all of that cool information into a visual format. Not only does it does a couple of things. First, it gives you that creative outlet, right, that writing doesn't give you. But second of all, it gives you a way to showcase your creative thinking. And oftentimes your job may require creative thinking. And this is just another way to create some of those, a visual to represent who you are. When you start converting, okay, this is the work that I did. What can I do to visually showcase that without using words? That's sort of the fun part of this for some people. And it's a nice challenge. So this is that work. So whatever you do create, whether it be a video or an infographic or a presentation deck, you can always put it in the featured section of LinkedIn. And so therefore it's going to be something that resides right underneath your profile. It's the first thing somebody's going to see if they actually do look at your profile. So that's a good place to put it. You could write a blog post, an article on LinkedIn and include it there as well. Any of these visuals that you're creating or PowerPoints. So there are different ways you can place this material. And I don't think one is better than the other. My recommendation is, hey, do it all. Write an article on LinkedIn, embed your visual, your PowerPoint, whatever it is, and then put it in the featured section. Here's the other thing that I want you to understand, according to JobVite's 2020 survey, is that recruiters are all over social media, right? Yes, a lot of them are on LinkedIn. It's 70 to 72%, but a lot of them are on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and even YouTube. They're looking at these other platforms for people that may have hard to find skill sets, or they're just curious to see what they can find there. So I don't want you to dismiss any of these as not important for your job search. They could be very important. Here's my favorite saying of all. What good is it if only your boss knows how great you are? Right? Right now, your boss, who you may not even be working for, is the only one who has actually seen samples of your work. And that breaks my heart because there are lots of people who should see samples of your work so that they can know how truly wonderful you are and the quality of the work that you've produced, whether it's content or just problem solving. That's what you want to get out to the world. And that's what you should have been getting out to the world all along. Don't wait to be in job search mode to share some of the accomplishments and achievements that you've had. Put that out there more often, more regularly on an ongoing basis so that your next great opportunity finds you, that you don't have to go chasing after it. I will say this. The reason I think this works, okay, the reason I know this works is because it's exactly what I've been doing for the last X number of years. I have never once gone to a school or gone to any organization and asked if I can present. I don't do that. That's out of my comfort zone. I don't like doing it. But I've created enough valuable content. I've presented and shared my information with enough people online that those kinds of opportunities have come to me. I've never met Kenneth. I love him. He's great. He's wonderful. But Kenneth invited me to be a guest here today. And it's not because of anything other than I've built a reputation. And I did that by regularly sharing information on LinkedIn and other platforms. So if I can do it, and I'm an introvert, then I think any of you could do the exact same thing that I'm doing. Share what it is you know and that you love talking about, and other people will begin to notice. Isn't that true?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the questions that Alex asked earlier, that was hard to say, Alex asked earlier, is is okay, I've built this presentation, I've built this infographic, I've built it. Now what do I do with it, right? So as I talked about, you can embed it in your LinkedIn profile or write an article about it that's featured it. You can share it in an update on LinkedIn and wherever else you are active on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. You could send it as a link. Or embed it in an email to people that you would like it to see it. That could be through LinkedIn messaging, that people that you're connected with, or it could be a standard old email. You could post it to SlideShare. SlideShare still exists, though it was bought by another company. LinkedIn no longer owns it. I can't remember the name of the company that bought it, but the good thing about posting it to SlideShare is that it gets more visibility. You can add your document, your presentation to Pinterest and or Instagram. Um, there have to be some modifications if you send a post it to Instagram. But here's what's really more important than sharing it. You want to make sure that your file, whatever it is you are sharing, has a good SEO optimized name and uses the keywords that people would search for to see that problem that you're solving. So in Alex's case, you want to make sure that you name that with your name as well as the problem that you are solving. So if I were to search for the problem that Alex solves, I would find that file somewhere. I would find the article that he wrote on LinkedIn about it. I would find a post that was shared on Twitter about it. I would find it on his blog or his personal website. I might even find it if I was searching within Instagram for something with that name. So we have to realize that that is how people discover any solution to any problem today. If you need, think about this. My husband was just trying to solve a problem with our Prius, right? The battery died and something. So the first thing that he did was he searched Google, show me how to fix this problem with my Prius, right? And there are thousands of videos that show you how to fix that problem with your video. And he probably watched all 1,000 of them. But that is how we all get problem solved today, whether it is in our personal life or our professional life. We search Google. And so in order for our content, whatever it is we've created, a PowerPoint or an article, we need to think about, okay, what question would somebody search for that I'm presenting a solution for? And that is the magic. That's the personal SEO. That's understanding that kind of thing. So at this point, what I want to make sure that I do is, if there are specific questions that we should go back and answer, I wanted to give people a chance to sort of say,
Sure.
okay, I'm still sort of processing all of these ideas. What questions do you have as you think about them?
Well, I would make one observation when people post content with LinkedIn. It's important for the content to be longer lasting now, not just for the first day, but for the whole week, because now content lives longer. So think about when you post something, it has to have the same resonance a few days later, because you never know who's going to see it when.
Yeah. And so if we're talking about any of the self-branding content, that has a shelf life that's quite long, right?
Yes.
Like we want people always to find that. So that kind of content is absolutely as relevant today as it would be 3 months from today. So
Hmm.
that means it's a great topic to write about and share about. One of the things, there was a woman a woman girl who had seen one of the infographics that Career Snapshot, and she was in marketing, so she created her own. And actually, in her job search, every week, I think it's on Monday, she posts a new infographic about some feature about her. One week it was her accomplishments. The next week it was an infographic with information about her skill sets. And so every week she took a little segment of, this is what I'm going to emphasize today to my network and anybody who wants to share it. So like that could be a nice set of frequency of status updates that you could give. Create a visual that represents a particular part of you and focus in on that. Clink. Uh, oh, connect and follow me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
This. Sorry. Thanks, Christine. What other questions do you all have? I think the fun thing about this, like I know I hate when we get behind the 8 ball and we feel like we're chasing after jobs, because that puts us in a really vulnerable spot. Everything that I've talked about today is proactive. It's you putting yourself out there. And as I said, as an introvert, that can be a little bit scary, but if you're willing to take that risk, I guarantee you'll see a return on that investment.
We have a lot of introverts here on this call. Believe.
Yes, I would say that we most of us are introverts. And gosh, you know what? That doesn't give us permission to be reclusive. That does not give us the button that says, okay, then you don't need to do all of that, because you're going to be up against extroverts forever and ever and ever. Right. And so, as challenging as being an introvert is, we've got a lot of really great strengths, and our analytical skills and all of that great stuff. So, yes, accept the fact you're an introvert, but move on. We're great at
Hannah,
asking questions. Hello,
Hannah,
Alex.
I wanted to make a comment. I mean, when you said earlier that 65% of population are visual people, it rang a bell loud and clear, and I'll tell you why. Last night, I started reading a new book.
Oh, wow.
This is an old book, and why did I buy this? Because I know I work with some clients that are dyslexic. I want to understand their world, because if I'm trying to help them, but I don't understand their world, how can I help them? And the first chapter of this book says that a very high percentage of people in the world are dyslexic, and they are some of the most successful people in the world. And it gives here a few names of people, world-renowned people: Churchill, uh, Hans Christian Andersen, Harry Belafonte, Leonardo da Vinci, Walt Disney. These were all dyslexic and very successful people, but you need to understand them. And I totally agree with you. People are visually, and by the way, one of the things I say to all my clients is the hiring decision is decided more heavily on what the interview sees than what the interviewer hears.
Yes, right. And so storytelling and visual images really goes back to the very, very, very beginning of time, because the alphabet came much later in our evolution. When the cavemen were in caves, they were painting pictures, right? They were telling stories verbally, but painting pictures. And I think that is part of the reason why, still as humans, like that's the way our brain has been hardwired since the very beginning, right? And I think we've been lucky to evolve and to be able to have this alphabet and to be able to, tell stories in writing. But I think there's still a part of the human brain and part of our society, as you said, that is still hardwired to have a different default. And I think when we think of any of the people that are truly creative, right? These people that are great artists or great musicians, I would bet, Alex, I think a lot of them are probably dyslexic, or at least have a different way of processing information than the rest of us. I think that they've got this creativity gene that is something going on in the brain. And I don't know enough about that, but I think that there are probably lots of job seekers too who are not good at writing resumes, right? But that should not get in the way of them being able to tell their story of how great they really are. And so let's unleash this and say, use video, use music, use art, use whatever you can use that allows you to tell your story. Use it, because there will be people who will find it and who will listen. Okay. Anything else that people
I'm
want to
gonna, I'm gonna,
ask?
I'm gonna bring up something that you and I were talking about, the idea of an elevator pitch versus something else as a means of introduction. I know a lot of us here talk a lot about elevator pitches and
Yeah.
what? Yeah,
Oh,
no, go ahead.
because
I
I think
think,
people stink at giving the elevator pitch. It's hard.
yes, I mean, what would you perhaps suggest as part of a means of introducing yourself or,
Right. So we're simple. The brain can only process a few things at one time. And our attention spans have gotten to, what is it, 7 or 8 seconds, and that's less than a goldfish. So if we are here in a forum where we're around a lot of people and we're asked to introduce ourselves, there are really only three important things that we can convey in that amount of time, right? So what are the three most important things that you want someone to remember about you? And it's not your name. You don't need somebody to, that's not the purpose here. The purpose here is what can you tell, what information can you share about yourself that's going to make somebody want to follow up and connect with you, have a follow-up conversation with you, or at least remember you by, right? So yeah, maybe that's your job title, but maybe not. Maybe it is some really cool achievement or claim to fame or some quirky thing, right? So I love telling people, I'm a job search strategist, and really what that means is I help people understand how to look for work better. I tell a little story, I use an example. That's the kind of problem I solve, right? If I want people to remember me, back in the olden days when I introduced myself to a group of people, I would share a fun fact about myself. And that fun fact was that I told David Letterman to shut up once. And that works if you're talking with people who know who David Letterman is. But I did tell David Letterman to shut up. And so that can be sort of a conversation opener. I worked with one guy so long ago, and he invented in Rochester, this means something, in other parts of the world it wouldn't, but he put the bird cam on top of Kodak Tower that would monitor the peregrine falcons that were up there. So if you're from Rochester, everybody knows about the peregrine falcons that are on top of Kodak Tower. And so he could say that that was sort of his claim to fame. Now, it was 20 years ago that I worked with that guy, but I still remember his name to this day because of that cool thing that he shared about himself. So I think that we sometimes think that it's important in our pitch to tell people everything, but it's an opening. It's the beginning of a conversation. You're trying to find a point of commonality. So, what is that problem that you solve in a nutshell, and maybe what's a fun fact about you? Right? Don't give a lot of information.
I think we all talk about having different types of discussions for different people. Someone who's not in my industry is not going to have a clue if I talk IT-ish
Mm-mm.
and vice versa.
No. And why would I mean, even if they ask you, so what do you do, Ken? They don't really want to know the nuts and bolts of what you do. They want sort of a big picture of what you do.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I think that that's really when we are starting a conversation with somebody new, we need to reprogram what it is we tell people and what they need to know about us. Right up front, there's not a lot they really need to know about our day-to-day job unless it's really cool. Like
Mhm.
in my day-to-day job, I get to work with celebrities and help them solve their problems. Ooh, wow. Or or if you've have something, like if you were a person who fixed wrote the handbook for the online handbook, right? For a copier printer, right? I write the instructions that go in the copier that you use every day, right? That's sort of cool. It makes it relatable. We
I
all
always
know.
tell this. I always tell the story. I'm dating myself here. Anyone here remember the Stanley Siegel show from way back when? There was a show, a local show on Channel 2, and I was interning there at CBS. And someone called up saying, "I'm Muhammad Ali. I want to talk to the talent coordinator," and I hung up on him because I thought it was a prank call. Well, guess what? It was not a prank call. And but it was like one of those cool things, and we all have these moments, and it
Yeah.
personalizes you. We all have
Yes.
those things.
And here's the other thing, the brain is hardwired to remember stories because they evoke emotion.
Hmm.
If you just give a laundry list and you just say all of these things that you do, there's no emotion going on there, right? The person can't emotionally connect to that. And not everything we say is going to be an emotional connection to everybody we meet. It doesn't
Right.
need to be, right? But you never know unless you put it in there. So yeah, I think we all need to rethink the pitch and how we introduce ourselves to really say it's shorter, it's less information, it's high level, and there's something human about us that we're sharing because that's what this is all about. We're building relationships.
Absolutely.
Ooh, you met the Incredible Hulk. That's cool. All right.
Anyone else want to share a fun story in the chat? Okay.
Yeah, Linda, storytelling is huge. It's a
Right.
marketing thing. It is how the brain is wired. Stories sell.
I would recommend you all subscribe to Hannah's newsletter. A little bit of a plug. There's some amazing content there. I followed you for a long time, Hannah, and I have to be honest, I was debating, this is the introvert in me. I was so afraid to reach out to you about presenting. I was like, what if she says no? What if she doesn't know who I am? And I did, because that's the mindset. Fear of
Yeah,
rejection, fear of anything.
I know. But if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Right.
It was such a treat to be here today, Kenneth. Congratulations to you and all that you are doing to educate and promote and
I
to
know
help.
that this is like a labor of love for me because I didn't have the same support a while ago. So I like to pay it forward. I think it's so important to share not just the technical, but the personal experiences for sure. So thank you very much for coming in. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. It was my honor to be here.
Honor. Ooh.
Yeah.
Hannah, how did you come up with the name Career Sherpa?
Two parts to that story. First, I needed a name for my company, right? So I was having a conversation with somebody and they said, hey, there's this person called the Marketing Sherpa. I'm like, ooh, I sort of like that. Maybe I could be the Career Sherpa. And then the other part was I kept talking about this guiding, helping guide people through the treacherous terrain of job search. And so that sort of led to, oh, that's exactly what Sherpas do. So thank you for
All right.
asking.
No, that's good to know. So I think, thanks a lot, everyone, for coming. Alex, do you want to give a little plug for what you're going to do in 2 weeks here?
Am I on in 2 weeks?
You're on in 2 weeks.
You
Hopefully.
put me on the spot because I have a list. When I need to know what to talk about, I go to my list. Frankly, I forgot what we decided on.
Okay, fair enough.
Do you remember? Do you remember?
No, why do you think I asked you?
Go out. I don't remember. I have to look it
No,
up. But I know
Well,
it will be lovely because
I
it
know.
will be not lovely, lively. I meant to say, forgive me,
So
lively.
Hannah, I got to show you Nancy Aronson in the background. You see the background?
Mhm.
That's what she does every day on LinkedIn. Her background of the day.
That is so cool.
You can unmute yourself, Nancy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's very cool, Nancy. So if anyone needs a background, Nancy's your girl, lady,
Absolutely.
woman.
All right. Thanks
Plug for
again, everyone.
Nancy.
So Hannah, will the presentation be available if we want to share it?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yes,
have
I
to.
can absolutely share that.
No,
I'll put, you know what? I'll post it as a status update on LinkedIn.
absolutely. That would be great.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot,
Practice what
everyone,
I
for
preach
attending.
here.
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone, for attending. I hope you all found it helpful.
Thank you all for being here. I hope you walk away with some fun ideas.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Alex, you wrote to me only, to Leora, so I think you might want to rewrite it again in the chat, what you wrote to me.
Somebody talked to me. I don't know. Leora, it was you?
Yes, you sent it just to me because I'd written to you, so it only went to me, your message about smiling.
Oh, okay. Well, forget.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Leora.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone.